This is my favorite merch drop that we've done
so far, right?
Yes.
Well, I do it's neck and neck with the very first drop we did where we had the blue
sketches.
and purple. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, this is equal, on par with.
This is near and dear to my personal heart.
Yes.
Because I've always been a Beastie Boys girl. And I love that we use them as inspo because they do have great merch. And guess what? Trying to find their vintage t-shirts is going down a rabbit hole of frustration. So we did our own version of it.
I have the pile here, but please stand up, show the people, show the pockets what we've done.
It's unfortunate we're not in person today because our cameras are not.
But I also want to say that we involve the pockets big time in this merch drop. You're mentioned, you're listed, you're on the shirt. We love you.
Oh yeah, that's right.
This is out. And it's on the shirt I have on. Okay, go ahead, Kate.
This is my favorite shirt, everyone. This one. I'm not a yellow fan, but I really like this combination, right? And so on the back, can you see it? Okay, so that's mine. You have the whole pile with you, though.
I have the whole pile. Okay, so I'd like to stand up and show. We have a long sleeve sweatshirt, like a thin sweatshirt. It's not like a thick, heavy one. It's like could be spring, could be fall. Perfect for fall, because fall's coming.
A good transition shirt. Check your pockets. It's a good it's a good photo.
Check your pockets. Okay. I feel like I'm in an infomercial.
Yeah.
If you call in right now, you'll get nothing different than
what she's showing you.
Yeah. Okay. On top of the crew neck sweatshirt, we have the sweatshirt version of what Kate's wearing with a hoodie.
I had that on this morning when I woke up.
You had this on this morning.
Sure did.
So it says Pants Pod.
And then on the back it says, get off my mic.
To go with the set, it's like a set. You get sweatpants with pockets. Wow, look at that. It's kind of nasty what just happened. And then they're really cute because
they're a nice washed black.
They're a nice wash. They're thin, like I said, thin, and they have pockets. And then, of course, we all need the elastic at the bottom. Do what you will with that.
They're very comfortable.
Then here's the shirt Kate has on, just in an off Kate's body. Get off my mic. Look at this. Cute little. And Kate, you have to talk about how we took the yellow color this time. You embraced it because you're like, you love yellow. You just wish you could wear it more. So we gave you a version where we had these sort of charcoaly black sweats with the yellow pop so you can get more yellow in your life.
Are you referring to the shirt I'm wearing?
I'm referring to the whole drop because there's yellow in it and people will be like, Kate hates yellow, but we did it for you.
It's a nice washed yellow. See? Well, it's also the Beastie Boys colors. It's a damn fine hat.
Look at that shit. It's a fucking cute hat.
It is a cute hat. And you know what?
And that's the drop.
Wait, hold on a second. It's the hat. It's embroidered. It's not an iron-on.
Oh, yeah. No, it's embroidered. It's staying.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah. Okay. And then we have really cool special sort of band-like merch that's also going to be in the drop. A very cool tote I can't wait to see in person. And then something special. It's very bandy. Tell everyone when it's available.
So everything's going to be available on November 1st. You can go on our Instagram pages. It's going to be on both of our socials as well. Click the link, choose what you like. Jess will have it shipped to you.
And it goes for 2 weeks. You have 2 weeks to buy it. Right. It's one of those quick drops. So if you miss it, you miss it.
I like the quick drop.
We don't want you to miss it.
I like the quick drop.
Quick drop is good. Yeah.
That's it. Get in,
We've come. We did it. We're out.
Exactly.
November 1st to November 15th. Oh, look at us. Everybody, this is a super special Pockets edition. Check your pockets. And I don't know if this is ever going to come back, this drop. So this is it. This is your chance. Well, here's the funny is that not funny, but we don't know if the world is going to end on when this episode is airing or if we're going to be in a good place. But the merch will be available whether you need it for, like a doomsday prepper type thing. Like the sweats will be good if you have to go live on a commune somewhere.
Or if you just don't want to leave your house for 2 weeks because...
Right. Because you're going to be crying in bed.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice for that. Like the hat these always feel good. Like if you're ever in a depression, somehow when I'm depressed, I wear these.
You wear the beanies?
It kind of feels like it kind of feels like
a hug on your head.
You're going to be okay. It's like the bed version on your head.
Yeah, this is wild to think this is coming out the day.
It could be.
It's really wild to think this is coming out the day after. Although, you know what? When we're when this airs, it's not completely foreign if we still don't have an answer either. Because it takes fucking forever in this country to get any answers. So we might actually not have any information. We could still be on our toes as people are listening to this.
Sure. But also a good, celebratory merch to wear too. If we're all feeling joyful.
God damn it, yes.
You could slap on the sweatsuit and go out and get a cup of coffee and laugh and
honk your horn down the street.
Laugh with your friends and sell it. Yeah, with your cute. Do you like how I keep bringing it back to the merch?
Yeah.
That was just it was a trick. It was a merch trick.
Do you have any? Did you have? Well, again, we're doing this like it's like we're
no, I'm not going to guess.
No, it's not guessing who's going to, none of that. But on election night.
I'm manifesting my.
No. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking on election night, do you have a plan? Do you have do you know how you're going to go through that
Spend
evening?
The night?
Yes.
Yes. Kim and I are going to be together with Chi-Chi, Peggy, and Banjo. And we're going to probably start watching the TV when we wake up.
In the morning?
It's going to be on all day long. Yeah, okay. All day long.
Okay.
We're going to be on the ride.
You're going to be on the ride.
We'll probably order food in. Maybe we'll make soup. I don't know.
Soup is a cozy option, actually.
Soup is cozy. I feel like, I'm on kind of a health kick, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I have,
I'm ready to see my TV turn blue and just have some champagne chilling.
I don't know if you're going to get that night. I hope so, but I don't know.
That's what I'm envisioning.
I have a superstition ever since 2016. Well, it all happened in 2015. Bunch of people came over because we were all so convinced Hillary was going to get elected. Everyone was cocky. Everyone was convinced. Everyone came over. I think you came over as well. A friend of ours brought over a Madam President cake, and we all know how that evening unfolded. And I remember the one thing that was the most comforting was to watch the Great British Bake Off that night, because it's such a removal from reality. So I'm actually saving the new season just in case. And
that's a good idea.
The next morning, I think the next morning after that fateful night, Anna went into the fridge and when she opened it up, there was the Madam President cake that our friend had left with abandon. And so now every election, I just want to stay quiet and I don't want to do a big to-do. And I kind of like your soup idea. That sounds cozy. I told Anna, I said, I might actually just spend the evening in the workshop to remove myself. And she's like, no, you can't leave me alone.
There's no way you'll be able to just pretend
I'd come in and out, and just to get some distance. Otherwise, I'm watching Steve Kornacki give me an anxiety attack.
Okay, well, here we go. Let's get Tegan on here. Hi, Tegan.
How's Vancouver doing?
Good. I'm actually on right now.
Yeah. Don't say where you live with this documentary out.
Well, I think the cat's out of the bag. I mean, haven't you seen that guy on TikTok? You can just show him a piece of land and he can tell you where it is. Trust me, people can figure out where I live based on the buildings.
I think this is a great way into talking about why you made this documentary. Yeah. Your whole life was ruined by people figuring out who you are, everything about you, and then trying to ruin the whole thing.
Yeah, trying to ruin, I would say. Yeah, I feel like when Hulu sent the first trailer and there's a quote, it has me being this person systematically destroyed my life. I actually don't say that in the movie. It's a bit of a Franken quote because I was like, they didn't, they definitely tried. And you guys know this firsthand. There's an experience as a public person where there's a part of your career or a time in your fame cycle where it feels like you are being attacked or you're being preyed on. And definitely the fake Tegan stuff happened during that part of our career where I was increasingly aware of the breach of privacy and the very passionate minority of fans that are like, must have more, must have more, that phase where you're like kind of grossed out. But I don't feel like fake Tegan had the power to destroy my life.
This is, you refer to this person as fake Tegan, and as your friend, when we were watching the documentary, we went to go see it when you did it in LA at Vidiot's. Liz Feldman and I were sitting next to each other, and throughout, at least one of us intermittently would hear the other one say, "Jesus fucking Christ!"
Yeah,
because we were brought back to this time.
Yeah,
and I remember you would reference a lot fake Tegan, and it was within the context of some story, and it was kind of and. You would say that, and it never really landed for me what that meant. And you would sort of joke it off and say, "Oh, someone's just pretending to be me." Yeah. And I thought, okay, well, what does that mean? I never really put it into context, right? So watching this really threw me back into a time machine. I texted you this after I saw that. I really felt like I was put back in a time machine, and I didn't realize how severe it had gotten.
That's why I had to make this movie, Kate, because I never felt like you took me seriously.
I did. So I was like, well, I took you seriously. I just didn't get it.
No. Look, I didn't want to... Two things happened for me. When I first found out about fake Tegan, that was 2011. I had moved to LA a couple years before that. And, the night that I found out about fake Tegan was Liz Feldman's birthay.
Because I went in the doc.
That's the party.
I asked you after the thing. I said, "Now, was this party at my house or was it at somewhere else?" And it was Liz Feldman's party. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And over the course of the next year, as information kind of flooded in and we did our investigation, it was this awkward thing where I had to go to my friends, some of whom were public people or famous people, and be like, "So you might have been like." You might have accidentally gotten caught up in this awful thing that's happening to me where someone's pretending to be me and they've accessed, my manager's emails and my emails. It's possible your information has been compromised." And it was awkward. It was awkward to say that to people. And it was also such a huge thing that was happening that we also didn't have language for. Because remember, back in 2011, we didn't even use the word catfish. None of us had watched the show yet. We didn't know anything about that. So we just... trying to explain it as a concept was very difficult. And so I think we kind of played it down because we were able to establish very early on that this person seemed to mostly be just trying to get Tegan and Sara fans to fall for it. And, they weren't taking money. There were it didn't appear that there were any sort of physical relationships happening. It was all over text, email, messenger, on message boards, etc. So I think we stopped thinking, okay, our friends are gonna get caught up in this. And then it was 2 years later that we were able to confirm through Yahoo that an old email of mine had been compromised, and about a dozen friends of mine had inadvertently, unknowingly been talking with this person.
Fucking hell.
Then that was when it was like we had to do the awkward dance again where we had to go to everyone in our life and be like, "So you should probably think about changing your email or
you
at least
did
your
send
password."
an email. You sent
I remember your email
I changed my email because of your email. I remember where I was sitting in my kitchen.
I have a question as far as we've all had trust issues with maybe one person in our lives where you're like, okay, I need to sort of remove myself from this person, but to have doubt or fear that every single person in your life is possibly the person doing this to you, how do you deal with that kind of overwhelming trust issue?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, honestly, it was hard at first because there are definitely layers in my life, the way that there are people that are inner circle and I never worry or don't trust them, my friends from high school, for example, and lots of people who've been in my life now for 15, 20 years who I love and trust emphatically, and I never questioned them. But there are layers of new friends, people who've been in your life 5 years or 10 years or a couple months, people you met through other people, back in the time that fake Tegan was most active. I mean, it was really normal for me to meet somebody through a friend, give them my email, like JT, who's one of the victims in the film. Like, I met JT in 2007. We went for coffee a few times. We knew mutual friends. We'd run into each other all the time. She'd send me her music. We'd exchange random, emails. We never hung out again, but it was normal, like, to have people like that in your life, in your phone. Since this movie came out, I've been getting texts from random people who I haven't talked to in like 10 years, being saying, like, oh my God. Yeah. This is horrible. I'm so sorry this happened to you. And so it was a very confusing thing because when the fake Tegan thing started, there was so much personal information that we could not figure out where they'd gotten it from.
That's the part I mean. Like, someone who's an acquaintance wouldn't necessarily know these intimate details, which would make me paranoid that it was someone who knows me really well.
If I was fake Tegan and I was if I was the mastermind behind this.
Are you admitting it right here, right now?
I'd love it if you were fake Tegan.
I'm indicating. But my point is that if I was the mastermind behind the fake Tegan, I would not have the wherewithal of how to get unreleased demos that you two had made.
Yes.
So how on earth did that person?
Well, that makes me think it's inside your management. Like, that's where I would start. Like, they have these things.
Yes.
I'm not blaming them, but that's where I would go.
No, our investigation centered around trying to figure out the music, because that was the easiest thing for us to investigate, because we had sent music to so few people. But I felt really on trial when this first happened, because, Sara would text me, or management would email and be like, who did you send these songs to? Like, is it possible you sent this to a random person? And, I was like, no, I'm so protective of my music. And so right away we hired a cybersecurity specialist who was able to find a breach of our manager's iDisk, which was sort of the cloud before the cloud. And they...
Okay.
Oh, so you had this person was a computer sleuth who just knew their way around the software.
Yeah, like within weeks of hearing about fake Tegan and speaking to the first victim who came forward, Julie, who was so helpful and so traumatized by what happened. And it was such an awful thing that happened to her. She'd been friends with who she thought was me for years, and had been given access to this iDisk and was like, this doesn't seem right. Like, why do I have access to passports and, all these weird things. And so within the first couple of weeks, we were able to trace a lot of the physical evidence that we had to somebody in the UK, which of course we cover in the film. And it was through all that physical evidence that we were able to find the leak on our manager's iDisk. So we were able to explain a lot of the personal information initially, but there were just, you guys have dealt with this too. There's this weird part of being a public figure where information about you does leak, and you do have to look around at the people around you and think, like, is it possible that one of these people has told another person, and that person goes on message boards and talks about me? Because you don't want to believe it's someone you actually are friends with, and through the course of our career, we've had those moments where our management, they send us a weekly report of stuff that's leaking on the message boards, and be like, to this day are these message boards active, or now is it just online, like social media and things like that? Because message boards were there pre-social media. That's how people found each other. All of us, our most hated boards, the Zeta board, L chat kind of thing, still active to this day.
Wow. Yeah,
they're still active.
That's the stuff that really, I remember when those first started, when we were on our show back in the day.
Yeah, how did it make you guys feel?
Well, I remember hearing about it, clicking on it, reading the most horrible stuff and going, I will never click this again. Like it just sent me into it was horrible.
I had that, and then I had the same reaction, and then friends would say, "Oh, did you see this thing?" And it was like some weird piece of information that wasn't true or partially true, whatever it could be. And it makes you wonder, like, where was the source of this?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think a lot of times it's false. It's wrong. Or they'll get a piece of information and it's so twisted and backwards.
Well, it's kind of game of telephone.
Upside down.
Yeah. Yes, it is, very much. But where did that kernel of information come from to even kick this off? That's what I've always been sort of curious about. Not enough to investigate, but I thought.
No. So let me know if you want to investigate.
No, I'm good.
I think that's ultimately where we ended up getting in the first wave of fake Tegan victims that came forward, was that we were like, okay, the vast majority of what we're pulling from these emails and conversations is not real. Like, it doesn't feel right. It's not things I actually experienced. It was all made up. So we were like, okay, we're good. There was this breach of the iDisk, and, you know, they've pulled some content off of friends' Facebook pages, that sort of thing. But this is something we can sort of like plug the hole, move on. You know, we kind of warned people on our message or on our social media, you know, said, hey, Tegan and Sara don't have personal accounts. If you're talking to someone who claims to be Tegan and Sara, come forward, but you're not talking to Tegan and Sara. And we sort of closed the chapter for a minute. And then, you know, we find out about JT, who, you know, is one of the victims that was awesome to, you know, who agreed to be in the film. We find out about JT, and that's when we become really, really, really scared, because it is someone that I know, and it is someone who is actually emailed with an old email of mine. So we, at that point, we investigate, and we confirm through Yahoo someone is in the account. They are pretending to be me. And I send this email out, and you absolutely received it, where it was like, if you have been emailing with this email account, please like call me. And about a dozen people I know called. And, you know, that was how people knew about me and Lindsay breaking up. It was how people knew about my mom's health and about my aunt passing away. Just accidental conversations with friends of mine being like, hey, Tegan, heard about you and LB, hope you're okay. And then fake Tegan would write back and be like, what did LB tell you? Oh, just that you guys broke up. Oh, okay. You know, like, that was how they were getting information. And at that point, I really had convinced myself that this was just, it's not somebody I know. But I think back then, that was also just like how I survived that, was at some point I sort of stripped away some of the extraneous people, or people that I didn't know that well. I just stopped, you know, I got rid of my email for a long time. I didn't even email. And it was, you know, a couple years ago that I started to think about it again and was like, did we find the person? Like, did we block this hole? Like, is this still happening? Because Sara and I, as recently as 2020, you know, were approached by somebody on the street who was like, I've been talking to you for years. Do you know me? And I was like, no, I have no idea who you are. And it bothered me. It bothered me.
Course.
So it is still going on then.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And never your sister, though. It didn't, it affected Sara, you know, of course, because you guys are a unit, but no one was trying to impersonate her, though, right? Or were they?
There's actually there's a very strange story about Sara that I won't tell on it at this date, but there was a weird thing that happened a couple years ago where somebody was claiming to be in a relationship with Sara, and it spread wide and became quite a mess. You know, like Sara left her home, like her and her wife and kid left their home for, you know, a time period because they were worried about.
Oh my God.
So yeah, like it's definitely. But what is interesting about fake Tegan is how little fake Tegan talked about Sara. There was a real absence of Sara.
That is kind of like a tell, just like without like we've all like overlooked that fact.
Yeah.
Because it's like anyone who actually knows me, my entire life revolves around Sara, basically, in our life. So it was very odd, you know. But like also just like there were weird things like for me, like watching the movie with friends. Which Kate, thank you again for coming to the screening.
Oh, it was our pleasure.
Part of what was so hard for
I would have been there. I know,
Leisha, I know.
I was out of town.
We were very sad not to have you. It's okay, because honestly, it was such an emotional experience for me to sit in the theater in all these places with my friends, because I felt, you know, I feel humiliated that this happened in a way. And there's a lot that happens in the film, like around some of the fan culture that, like, I feel embarrassed about, because it's like, I didn't sign up to be in a band so that people would write incest fan fiction about us. Like, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to sit next to your mom, and it's painful to like have to live through that, you know? And so it was a rough experience, but on like a vanity level, like some of the harder parts for me is that like fake Tegan doesn't use any punctuation. What? But anyone who knows me knows I write very formally. Like even text messages, I've always used punctuation. Always. My emails don't use indentation.
They spell there incorrectly.
They terrible spelling. Also,
I completely relate.
What else?
You know what I mean? Like I really like I was like, wow,
I get that.
Why? How could how could these people fall for this?
Think that's me?
At least learn how to use a semicolon correctly. Yeah.
But of course, these people didn't
use
know.
the colon in the title of your film.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But these people didn't know because they were just, innocent fans who were like excited. Oh, this is Tegan's email. I'm going to reach out. Or Tegan has a Facebook account. Like
I have a question about the correspondence. Like,
yes.
Number one, I think if this happened to me, anyone would know it's not me because you can barely get a hold of me as is, or I'm like the worst texter, let alone group texting's my nightmare. Like the amount of correspondence you had, fake Tegan had with these people was, it seemed like it was like down to the minutia of your day. Like, I just went and grabbed a shake and now I'm gonna, and you don't, I mean, do people communicate that much? Am I an idiot to think they don't?
Well, no, it's staggering. It was staggering for sure. That was one of my first lines of defense initially. I was like, how could I couldn't even fathom having the time. I mean,
exactly.
We toured, 2013, we were on tour 300 days. Like I'm like, went around the world multiple times. Like when would I have corresponded with a dozen women around the world sending thousands of messages? It seemed impossible to believe. But, then I met all these victims and they're like, I think it's Mindy in the film who articulates this, like she had like red flags. So she would like be like, okay, Tegan's messaging me right now and she's in Denver. Okay. Yeah. Her tour schedule says she's in Denver. So like, they built, I think, a believable caricature of me and a believable version of me for these fans, again, who were unsuspecting and didn't know me, so they wouldn't know that like I absolutely 100% would never have been able to keep up this level of correspondence.
Exactly.
But before you were completely aware of what was going on, what year were you completely aware? What was it? 2011?
May 2011.
May 2011. Yeah. So prior to that, I was thinking this when I was watching. I thought you were touring so much, and do you ever look back? I guess before and after you were aware. You look back at your time on stage and you're playing to this huge audience and you're thinking, how many people think they're in a relationship with me?
Yeah, I mean...
And if you thought that, did it put like a level of, I don't know, insecurity or just a little too much of the spotlight on what you perceived yourself to be on stage, if that's making sense? I know I would be very self-aware of myself if I had that realization performing live. I
definitely feel like after I found out about fake Tegan, I increasingly became hypersensitive and aware of my behaviors. So if I was friendly in person to fans, there was a self-consciousness about that where I was like, I think I understood that my openness and friendliness, my willingness to, like, if someone stopped me on the street, to stand and talk to them for a couple of minutes, that this might have fueled part of fake Tegan's fire.
See, this is where I felt the most bad for you, like that, where the victimhood really came in for you in my eyes, because I identify with that because I'm very open and friendly and approachable, and I thought, wow, to have that happen it's almost like you had to stop being yourself, or to like share the side of yourself that you like and you want people to know about you, or you know what I mean? It's like, that's sad.
Yeah, and it did feel sad. And that was a huge part of going through the movie, was like acknowledging like a huge part of who our band is and who I am is to be that person, and I have to anyway. And I'm not going to entirely stop being that person, but I have to.
And you have that banter, like that's part of your thing. Like you
totally.
Just, like you have that on-stage banter. So what did you do when
Did you have like guardrails or
did you
Sarah and I have always had rules about what we can talk about publicly and not. I think we've always increasingly so become more protective of our personal relationships and reluctant to get into the minutia of what our songs are about, because we feel it's unfair to the people in our lives. I think, going to your direct question, Kate, I think that I didn't worry like, oh my God, there's victims everywhere. I don't think I had the wherewithal to think that even at the time. I didn't understand the scope. I think mostly what I worried about was honestly like the sort of betrayal and violation of my personal information. I was very hyper-focused on that. And I actually think a gift of making Fanatical is that I was able to take down my walls and see how the victims felt, because, I say this a lot, but I had a complicated relationship with the victims, because from my perspective, they were people that had gone online, become super obsessed with us, gone looking for my information, and had been tricked and what can I do about that, you know? And then I started talking to them all these years later, and I'm like, these poor people, like they were just fans who were online and were like, oh, Tegan has a Facebook account, I'm going to reach out to it. Or, oh, this friend of mine said this is Tegan's, you know, email. Or, you know, Jackie in the film is like, oh, your phone number was circulating. And we were like, there's no way it could be Tegan. And then we started texting with you. And, you know, it's like this making the film opened up so much more compassion for me, for the victims. But I want to admit it publicly that I didn't have compassion initially, because I also, like, I'm a real person. Like, I don't want to be, you know, media trained to the point where I can't express my own feelings. Like, I felt violated by this. And
but you're also a victim as well. Like, you do acknowledge yourself as one, correct?
Yeah, now, but I didn't then. So I had, you know, complicated reactions.
What was it that you, when you had or were lack of compassion, like, why? You felt like they sort of...
I think what I experienced back in 2011, I mean, it's hard to time travel, you know, back there, but even just...
this episode is a time travel. You didn't know that?
Okay, great.
This episode is going to air the day after the election, but we're recording it a week early. So we're all in the DeLorean, so you can hop back anytime you want.
Yeah, I think, like, reading through the emails, I think I just was really afraid. I think I was really scared. And so for me, it was like this came in conjunction with, you know, what I felt was a very, like an infestation of a kind of fan that was like mean-spirited and really critical of us and really critical of what we were going through. Anytime we achieved any sort of level of success, there was this like faction of fans that would be like, they were better before, they're selling out. Like, so I think I just grouped the fake Tegan incident in with all of that. And so there was just, I honestly felt at the time like so betrayed by a portion of our audience and so like attacked, or just, you know, like there was just so much nitpicking. And I remember just kind of having stepped away. Like, it started in 2008, 2009, where we got to a point where I was like, I don't want to hear about it anymore. I don't want to hear about the message boards. Again, you know, I'd moved to LA. I knew a lot more people like you guys. A lot more people who were having this same breach of their private space and being, you know, mistreated online. And I just really got my guard up. So when I found out about fake Tegan, it was like, aha, I knew it. I knew we shouldn't trust the internet and social media and a very specific kind of fan that like just is never going to be satisfied. They're never going to be happy just knowing what we're willing to give them. And that washed away over the last 12 years. I feel differently now. I feel way more compassion for our audience. I feel so much connection with our audience. I feel so much gratitude for our audience and for the career we've had. And so then talking with the victims, even the ones that were hard and difficult to talk to, even the ones that are mad and hate me, I felt a lot of compassion for them. I was like, this was a complicated thing they went through. This was a violating thing they went through. It's because of me. It's not my fault, but this wouldn't have happened to them if they didn't like our band. And I feel bad. I feel terrible. And I can't go back to that time and apologize to them then, but I can do it now. And so then, you know, I'd get on these calls and be like, I'm so sorry this happened to you. And it was like, they would be like, I'm so sorry this happened to you. And no, I didn't know I was a victim. I was like, at the beginning of making this film being like, I'm not a victim. And everyone was like, she doesn't know. Like, she doesn't understand what happened to her. And I had a full like nervous breakdown last year. Like, I was like, whoa, I didn't even realize like how much this affected me and how terrible I felt. And so it
was probably changing you along the way.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Without even you knowing
Didn't know.
how.
Sure.
No.
Yeah, wild.
And the person that you get on the phone, remember that
Tara.
with the texting and the LOL? Tara. That was sorry, that was me. That was. Can you refresh my memory? Do you want to talk about this? We don't have to.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
So Tara was also a victim of this, or someone who was a victim and then perpetuated it as well?
So we knew about Tara for years because, you know, they'd come to shows and they'd gotten in touch with Lindsay, who was my girlfriend at the time and a photographer, and had asked for advice.
Did you meet this person in the flesh?
I don't think I have met this person, but they did. I mean, we talk a little bit about it in the film, but they did physically try to, like, they broke past security and tried to grab onto me, and our tour manager, I think, knocked them over or something. Like, something, there was that. But I don't think I've ever actually met Tara, like, in a conversational sense.
I see. Okay.
So we were aware of Tara. Tara was sort of somebody who had made it on our list of fans that we were aware of, not for good reasons. And then Tara had reached out to our management, and this is in the movie, you know, basically saying, yes. I think I know who fake Tegan is. I have evidence. Would you like to know? And there became sort of a cat and mouse.
Yes.
You know, half a dozen emails back and forth, and
which was really
it was a little sus.
It was a little sus, but it did make me laugh with the LOLs and the upside down smile.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All the conversation we had in 2000, whatever it was, 13 or 14 with this person, right. And the conversation Aaron and I had with them last year is very sus. But it doesn't mean that they're fake Tegan. And we had a lot of circumstantial evidence, and a lot of the victims brought up Tara and said that they felt that Tara was involved. And so we sit down for this very, very intense and uncomfortable conversation with Tara.
I can't believe you did that. I was thinking, I don't know if I would be able to do that myself, or it really does take a level of not only patience and compassion, but I mean, you're really pulling back the veil.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, I did not have any idea what that conversation was going to be like.
You handled yourself
I probably
very
would not
well.
have agreed to the conversation had I known.
Did you do it just for the movie? Like, would you have done it otherwise?
No, I sent a video to Tara, like to a lot of the victims. I sent a video through the production saying, this is the real me and I would love to talk to you. I mean, I wanted to understand. Even Tara, I wanted to understand. Mm-hmm. I thought Tara did some nefarious, really shitty things, and I still had enough compassion in me to be like, I'd like to understand what motivated that. And that is what I sat down to try to figure out. Right off the bat, you know, we're all really tight and uncomfortable, obviously, in the film, like, or in that moment. And then, you know, I ask one question, and then Aaron jumps in and says, you know, we think you're fake Tegan, which I think, you know, after the fact, you know, Aaron admitted like it was a bit hot to come in with that right off the top. It kind of put Tara on the defensive. But I also think that was real. You know, we were a year into the investigation and we had so much circumstantial evidence. I think Aaron just was like, is this you? Also, Aaron had flown to Maine to meet with Tara, and Tara had stood them up. So I think,
the fact that he went to Maine, set that whole thing up just to be stood up was like, what?
It's intense. You know, we were all feeling a lot. Tara was feeling a lot. I was feeling a lot. Aaron was feeling a lot. The whole production was feeling a lot. But I will say that I don't know if I would have had the conversation if I'd known how it would go, but I did have it, and I'm glad I did. I left the conversation like 100% convinced that Tara is not fake Tegan, but I left it also reminded that there are people out there who said and did a lot of really terrible things to me, to the people around me, and that was hard. That was a really tough conversation. That was very bad for my health. I felt I had a really rough time after that because it sucks to think people hate you. It sucks to think people think you hurt them. It sucks to... It's hard for me that I work so hard in my life to be a good person, and there's all these people out there that don't like me, and I had to grapple with that feeling, and that was hard. And I feel bad that Tara's response to what happened with fake Tegan was to go out and try to destroy my life and to fuck with Lindsay and to fuck with my management and fuck with the other victims, and, you know, disseminated stolen demos and photos and circulated all this stuff that was really inappropriate. Like, I'm sad all of that happened, but that is clearly a reaction to something that Tara went through, and I can have compassion for them that they went through that. I really can. I can feel that for every single one of the victims in their reactions, the ones that were really amazing and helpful, like a Julie and a Mindy and a Jackie. And then, you know, there were lots of victims that we spoke to who didn't want to be involved and who still had suspicions of me, and I can understand that. This is a violating,
when you say suspicions of you, what do you mean suspicion?
Good one. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
What think
I think they still think it was you.
Yeah, they still think that was you, huh?
Yeah. How do you deal with that? Yeah. That would suck.
When you're like, I can guarantee you it's not.
Yeah,
I know, but
to
like,
not be believed. Ugh.
Like, I can have proof that it's not. People, they still are convinced.
I think because I know it's not me. Like, it's easier for me because no one in my life thinks it's me. It's not me. I know it's not me. There's so much physical proof. We worked with the FBI. I mean, I wouldn't have made a movie worked with the FBI if it was me, because I'm not that smart or good at technology, clearly. Right. So I couldn't have pulled this off. So it's not me. So I think I'm able to reconcile that in that, like, I'm like, these people feel, anyone who's still harboring suspicion, I get that, because we are inherently suspicious people. We're suspicious of celebrity and people with power. And so I get that. It sucks. And I don't want people to think it's me because I'm afraid people will still communicate with this person. But ultimately, I think the film tells that bigger story. It's not necessarily just about fake Tegan. It's about parasocial relationships. It's about not listening to your instincts. It's about fame. It's about, you know, being a victim. Like, it's about so many other things. And I've just allowed myself to be like, some of the people we reached out to didn't want to be interviewed, and that's absolutely fair. And some still had suspicions, and that's valid. And I have had to learn that I can't control that.
Right. That's hard.
Yeah.
Is that the reason you made the film? I mean, or what is the reason you made the biggest reason? Yeah.
My hope in making it, and now it's my hope in people watching it, is just that it starts a conversation, you know, about fandoms and social media and celebrity and how we communicate with each other. Honestly, this has been a big moment for me personally, just to come out with my real feelings about what happened. It was hard to say honestly in the film that I, you know, dislike a part of our fandom, or that I, you know, have had a difficult time with some of the things that have happened to us. We're trained not to say those kinds of things publicly. We're supposed to just be grateful for our success and grateful for our support. And I hope this just at least lends itself to a conversation that's happening right now, where artists are real people. Famous people are real people. Sometimes people go too far. And I hope we can just all remain open and compassionate to each other.
Do you have closure? Do you feel like there's a piece that you went through this whole journey of getting this documented? You released it. Now everyone can watch it and understand what happened. Do you feel a bit of inner peace maybe? Because this is, I think, this is as far as one could go, I would think, publicly. For you, someone in your position, doing a doc about it.
I think so. Yeah. I will say that I feel like grateful that I had the opportunity to tell the story, and relieved that we were able to bring some catharsis to the whole thing, you know, for the victims and for, you know, my management, my friends, you know, the people that went through this. I think I would have told you even a couple months ago that I wouldn't feel like closure until we talked to fake Tegan, but I actually think I did talk to fake Tegan a couple times, actually. And now that we have all that evidence, and I feel like I've talked to fake Tegan in a weird way, I really firmly believe in my heart I know who fake Tegan is. And I feel closure because I think this is a very complicated person, and I think they made a terrible mistake. And I don't think there's any value to destroying this person's life or calling them out. And I think I can just like move on. I think I always wanted to know why. I think that's why I wanted to tell the story. And in the end, I'm not sure that why matters.
I don't think so.
You know?
But your sister, one of you said something really great at the thing. You're like, well, these days, you know, because everyone has their Instagram accounts and whatever, and everyone's famous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
this could happen to anyone, really, at this point.
That was the whole point, was that someone follows you because they like your Instagram, and everyone has a platform. It could happen to anybody.
Yeah, like I don't think either of us love social media very much.
I love it, Tegan.
Yeah,
you do.
I can tell from how much you post.
Leisha loves to do TikTok dances. She has a bunch stored up that she's going to release in the next few weeks.
I think we've increasingly had a very suspicious and skeptical relationship with social media. But one great thing about social media was it was an equalizer. It's put us all on the same playing field, and that exposure that happens when you become a public figure or a famous person or an artist, it now can just happen to you because you post a funny thing and you're just an average person who's just like, I'm a nurse.
And it goes viral.
And it goes viral. And I would have hoped that it would create more compassion and empathy amongst us as human beings. I don't know that it always has, but I certainly think this is a time where people could understand this more than any other time. So it was the right time to tell the story. But yeah, I don't know. It was a wacky thing. I still feel terrible that so many people I love and care about were dragged through it. I really am grateful that the response has been so positive. I'm so grateful to everyone who contributed and who spoke out, all the victims who spoke in the film, regardless of my relationship to them. they're all really amazing for coming forward and telling their story and trying in their own way to help us figure this out. And I'm, you know, super, super, super compassionate and sympathetic to what they went through. And I am really grateful. You know, I put myself on camera all the time. I'm a public person. These people aren't.
But this was
aren't right.
You know, it's ballsy of them. Like, respect to all of you for doing that. And you're right for them, because they're not in the public, so they're not used to it. It's true. And you're exposing something very vulnerable, and you could be like, oh, I look like a fool for even.
And they're not fools. You know,
no,
like,
not at all.
No.
So respect to them for having the bravery to do that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Leisha.
And last, is there anything that you learned along the way that you were surprised about?
Well, the thing I keep saying is that most of the victims expressed like that at some point when they were talking to Fake Tegan that they had like alarm bells or an instinct that was like, and they ignored it. And I think that's like a reminder to all of us, like you are built, you have a natural organic alarm system inside of yourself. We all hear this, especially women. We hear this, like there are instincts in us for a reason. It's to keep us alive. So, I hated that. With almost every victim that said it, I would have this very maternal reaction where I'd want to be like, why didn't you listen to yourself?
Listen to yourself.
Yeah. You know, I hated that. I hated that, like, a natural curiosity to want to get to know the singer of their favorite band led them down this path. So I just, I think that was one of the big surprises. And again, how much anxiety, sadness, guilt, humiliation I'd carried and didn't even know. Like, that was a big shocker.
Trust your instincts.
Wow.
Yeah. Trust your instincts and, like,
Trust
process
that
this
little voice.
shit. There's a value to going back and, you know, reprocessing traumatic shit that happens to you, you know, so.
Very true.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God, Tegan.
Yes.
I'm so glad I got to see that in the theater.
Thank you. I'm so glad you made this.
Me too.
Thanks, you guys. I appreciate it.
I'm so
Congrats.
happy. Yeah.
And we never said the full name of your movie the whole time we were interviewing.
We just launched right in.
It's Fanatical, the catfishing of Tegan and Sara. It's streaming
on Hulu
right now and everyone can watch it. So congrats on the project.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, I'm glad that
the next project is not as traumatizing.
Yes.
I don't think so. And also I'm glad this brought like some healing, some closure, or however much that could be. And we adore you when we're going to see you.
Love you so much.
We're going to see you in LA in a couple
I know,
months.
I can't wait to see you guys.
You have to come down to the Pants Studio. And do it in person.
Yeah.
Come do an in-person. Then we can talk about our TV shows that we're watching. Because I know we're going to do an episode where we're just bullshitting about shows.
Yes.
Because we all like TV.
You know, I love you guys and I'm obsessed with you. And I'm so grateful to have both of you in my life. And I love Pants. And I'm excited
and
to
it
see
wasn't
you guys.
either one of us. Just I'm going to put that out
I will
there.
say based on very long friendships with you guys and understanding how you move through the world, you're neither of you are capable of this.
All right. We love you. Thanks for coming on.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.